Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into a pretty massive shift happening in the business world. For the longest time, it felt like a company had one job: make money, as much of it as possible. But that whole idea, it's changing, and it's changing fast. So that really brings us to the big question for today. What is a company's real job then? If it's not just about the bottom line anymore, what's taking its place? Honestly, the answer is a total game changer for how modern companies work, so let's get right into it. Okay, so first up, let's explore this new business purpose. It's all built around an idea called globally responsible leadership. And trust me, it's a powerful concept that completely rewires what success even means for a company today. And here it is, the fundamental shift. The old way of thinking was laser-focused on shareholders, the people who own stock in the company. But this new model, which is a huge part of what we call corporate social responsibility, widens that lens to include stakeholders. The whole idea is to create value for everyone who has a stake in how the company does, not just the owners.
Right? So that naturally leads to the next question. If we're not just talking about shareholders, then who exactly are these stakeholders? It's a great question, so let's break that down.
Well, the definition is actually really broad, and that's what makes it so powerful. A stakeholder is, quite literally, any person or any group that is impacted by what a company does. This idea goes way, way beyond the boardroom. So who are we talking about here, specifically? Well, it's the company's own employees, for starters. It's their customers, of course. It's the local communities where they set up shop. And yep, it's even the environment, the planet itself. A company that's truly responsible has to think about, listen to, and really engage with all of these different groups. But here's the thing. This kind of thinking, this mindset, it doesn't just magically appear out of thin air. Leaders have to be taught how to think this way. It's a skill, and it's one that companies are now actively working to build in their teams. And they're doing it through some pretty deliberate, structured training. We're talking about formal e-learning programs and video modules that use real-world scenarios and really clear visuals to make these big ideas, like stakeholder engagement and corporate responsibility, much easier to grasp. It's actually a formal part of the job now. Okay, so let's make this feel a bit more real with a case study. We're going to zoom in on how companies are learning to treat one of the most critical stakeholders of all, our planet. One of the cool ways they teach this is by showing the animated journey of a product. A responsible company thinks about its environmental impact at every single step, from where it gets its raw materials, to the actual manufacturing process, to how you and I use the product, and, this is a big one, what happens to it at the end of its life. A really key concept here is something called the carbon footprint. To put it simply, it's just a way to measure the total amount of pollution a company is responsible for creating. Thinking about that whole product journey helps them pinpoint where their footprint is biggest and, of course, where they can shrink it. So how do they actually protect the planet? Well, educational videos, like one called Our Planet's Protector, basically lay out the game plan. It's all about taking real action. Actively reducing that carbon footprint, managing waste properly instead of just getting rid of it, conserving water, making the switch to renewable energy, and protecting our natural resources for the future. And when you put the old way next to the new way, the difference is it's night and day. The old way was all about maximizing profit, even if that meant ignoring pollution or using up resources like there was no tomorrow. The new way, this responsible leadership model, is about managing waste, using clean energy, and saving water for generations to come. It's a completely different way of doing business. All right, so let's zoom back out. We've talked about the what, the who, and the how. But probably the most important question is, why does all of this matter so much, especially right now? So here's the big takeaway. Looking out for all these stakeholders, your employees, your customers, your community, the planet, it isn't just a nice-to-have thing anymore. It's not just about ethics. It has become absolutely essential for the long-term survival and success of a business, and frankly, for building a healthy future that we all get to share. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. As the world keeps changing and new challenges pop up, which stakeholder group do you think businesses really need to focus on next to be considered truly responsible leaders? It's a huge question, and the answer is probably going to define the next chapter of business.